Good evening and welcome everybody to the Student Loan Justice Saturday night live stream. How's everybody doing out there? My name is Alan Collins. I am founder of studentloanjustice.org. Nice little. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to all the new members. We are very glad that you found us. We are the only and largest, we're the only, so we're the largest, group of significant size grassroots group actually fighting for student loan justice. For the first 15 years of our existence, we were fighting very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. We are now changing that up. This is a failed lending system where 80% of all borrowers will never be able to repay their loans. The default rate for 2004 borrowers is 40%, and that class of borrowers was only taking out a third in loans of what is being taken out today. So folks, we are now calling for loan cancellation. We're not calling for a debt strike or nothing like that. That's frankly nonsense. We're calling for a debt deletion, erasure. Take it out to the back and shoot it. Take it to the bathroom, drown it in the tub. It's done. Put a fork in it. Done, Dunsky. The lending system has failed. Bankruptcy at this point, returning bankruptcy protections to student loans will only ensure that 15, 20, 25 million people wind up having to file for bankruptcy. That's not really going to stimulate the economy very much. It's not going to really buoy the spirits of the 55 million people out there with student loans. By the way, 44 million of the 55 million people who either have student loans or are co-signed on them are freaking out about their loans. They're unable to pay them. Or they're paying and their balance is going up. So I'm very glad to announce that we started a petition on change.org, I want to say 6 or 7 weeks ago. And at this point, March. Yeah. Let's say 6.5 weeks ago. Very glad to tell you that we now have 236 or so thousand signatures. So that's good. It's a lot, but we need 1 million signatures, folks. Our window of opportunity is quite narrow. I would say maybe the next month, maybe 2, would be the critical window that we need to make this happen during. I could be wrong, but that's just my gut telling me. Hey, Kathleen, how are you? Good to see you here tonight. By the way, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them up in situ. I would much rather do a give and take thing than just be like a talking head. So if there's anything I say that piques your interest or makes you mad or you don't disagree or you agree with it or don't disagree with it, let me know. Let's hash it out. If you have any questions, obviously, I'd be a good guy to ask. We've been around for 15 years, as I think I mentioned earlier. We've been featured on many programs, including 60 Minutes and the New York Times, Vice News, Fox News, Al Jazeera, NPR, PBS, Chinese Central Television. Did I say Fox News? ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, NPR, all that stuff. But what we've really been doing over all these years, folks, is research. We've been looking very carefully at the student loan system, both federal and private student loans. We've broken some of the most important stories in higher education, some of which have not been reported, by the way, and I'd be happy to go into that if you're interested. Hey, Kathleen says we shouldn't have to sign bankruptcy. Agree, erase. Right? I mean, the president and Congress, the country, needs financial stimulus right now. We gave like 43,000 millionaires a 1.6 million apiece tax stimulus out of the CARES Act or other stimulus programs. We've thrown like $3 trillion into the banks. We've thrown another trillion and a half into small businesses, which is great. We've thrown maybe $500 billion or something into stimulus checks, which keeps us treading water. We've done a 6-month moratorium on student loan payments, which quite frankly, just delays the inevitable. And the inevitable conclusion to this lending system is its evaporation into a mist of illegitimacy. It has already happened, folks. Don't fool yourselves. I'm not going to tell you to not pay because nobody is paying right now. And when the 6-month moratorium is up, if you really think that people are going to very happily start repaying their loans, no. It's time to cancel these loans. Way before the coronavirus, this was a failed lending system. So we're not talking about a debt strike. We're not talking about something like forgive interest rates or no. None of that. This is a failed lending system. Grover Norquist, very conservative guy, once said government should be small enough so that if you have to, you can take it to the bathroom and you can drown it in the tub. Well, this is precisely what has to happen with the federal student loan system. And by the way, we are still calling for the return of bankruptcy protections to whatever loans remain. And that's like 10%. So 85 or 90% are federally held. 10 or 15% are either the old style FFELP loans or private loans. Not much the president can do by executive order on those two. But we can return bankruptcy protections to all the loans that remain. So that's not nothing. And by the way, if you have FFELP loans, you can technically default on those loans and then demand that they be transferred directly to the Department of Education. And given that the executive order that we're calling on President Trump or the next president, however it goes, I don't care, to be, what was I saying? So, yeah, it's a little bit of an extra step, but you should be able to extinguish your FFELP loans, given that that presidential order is still, it remains in effect for some time. That's all I was trying to say. So, dudes, we are it. You know, there's like a couple of other groups out there calling for loan cancellation, but what they're calling for is nonsense, folks. They're calling on Congress to appropriate billions of dollars to cancel like up to $30,000 in loans and all kinds of complicated language behind that. That's a non-starter, folks. Congress will never cancel these loans. They'll pretend like they're canceling loans. They might even pass legislation that says canceling student loans in the title of the bill. But what they actually come out with will be just nonsense. And it will be, like I said, up to $30,000, and there will be means testing, and there will be an application, there will be paperwork and bureaucracy. Most notably, the Department of Education will be in charge of that whole thing. And the one thing we can say without doubt about the Department of Education is that it has no desire or intentions of canceling any loans, and that it has supreme powers to make sure that happens, to make sure not canceling loans is what happens. And I only have to point you to the Defense to Repayment program, whereby hundreds of thousands of people should have had their loans forgiven. But the last time I checked, exactly 2 people had actually gotten their loans forgiven. I think that's increased a little bit since I last checked, but you get the point. Similarly, for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, of I think 44,000 people who thought they were getting their loans canceled. Again, the last I checked, which was a few months ago, it was like 226 people had actually gotten their loans canceled. That's like 0.0, it's like 0.2%. It's far less than 1%. So all the other cancellation stuff that you're hearing is nonsense. And by the way, it's expensive. Congress would have to raise money and give it to the Department of Education, who would then take the money and then cancel loans. And all that stuff is completely unnecessary because the taxpayers already pay for these loans. And that is the most critical thing that everybody should know, including President Trump or any other future president like Joe Biden. You can cancel these loans by executive order and not need one additional dime of congressionally appropriated money. And you could do it without adding one penny to the national debt. These loans were paid for many years ago by the taxpayer. And they didn't pay much, by the way. Of that $1.5 trillion in outstanding federal loans, my best estimate is like maybe 200, 300, 400 billion of that is actual unpaid principal. The rest is just interest. And the federal government has been profiting on this lending system for the past 10 years. Huge amounts, 50, 60, 70 billion dollars a year. That's more profit than the biggest corporations on earth, by the way. And whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it's worth mentioning that at least some of those profits are being used to fund Obamacare. I know people hate Obamacare. Other people love Obamacare. We don't take any position on Obamacare. Quite frankly, I don't have a problem with it, but whatever. Republicans say that they hate Obamacare. And the profits from this big government monstrosity that is the federal student loan program are being used to fund Obamacare. So Republicans like Donald Trump should not like that, which is just another part of our argument. So folks, if you need to still stimulate the economy, and I'm pretty sure that we do, the stock market may be doing great right now, but there's no getting around the fact that probably 50 million people have lost their jobs in the past month and a half, 2 months. And a lot of those jobs may not ever come back. Certainly not in the short term. Maybe 30% of them will come back, maybe? We don't know. But it's going to be, I mean, think of it. 55 million people freed of that obligation. They will be able to now go out and buy houses and start businesses and start families and buy things that normal people do. That's a stimulus that has been a long time in the waiting. So folks, I don't know what more I can tell you how strong our argument is, but just think about it. Doesn't cost the taxpayers a dime. In fact, if they were canceled tomorrow, the taxpayer on balance would be breaking about even on the entire system over the years. Doesn't add 1 penny to the national debt. What easier stimulus tool can you possibly point to? You could like sell off the national parks, I guess, maybe, or something. But there is no other way to stimulate the economy in a way that doesn't require a boatload of tax money or adding a boatload of debt onto the national tab. So I can only hope that the people out there watching this are as excited about this as I am. You know, this is, and make no mistake, not only is this a failed lending system, it is an intolerable, unconstitutional, vicious national threat. So this fight that we are in, this group right here, this group, no other group, only our group, it turns out is the most important fight domestically, economically, that I can think of. Maybe somebody else can point to a bigger financial, economic problem. I guess the coronavirus problem is the bigger one, but I can think of no more fight that is more worthy of being fought. I can think of no stronger argument than the argument that we have. And I am constantly baffled and astonished that we don't have 5 million people in this Facebook group, that we don't have 25 million people signed up on this petition. But, you know, folks, we are the pioneers, clearly. From my lips to your ears, like it or don't like it, we have a little bit of a duty, responsibility to fight for those who don't even know that we exist. And most student loan borrowers do not know that we exist. And that is just kind of what happens when you have a truly grassroots group like ours is. We don't have any secret funding source. We don't have like millions of dollars to throw around. We can't hire a marketing and PR staff. We are left to our own devices, and as such, the people with money get to the front of the line. They have all the internet exposure, they have all the marketing tools, and they are fighting for exactly the wrong thing. You know, it astonishes me. And just one thing. One news item broke yesterday that the National Consumer Law Center was suing the Department of Education because people were still getting their wages garnished, despite the fact that the Department of Education had ordered the servicers to not garnish wages. That in itself looks, and everybody was like, hey, Alan, did you see this? Wow, this looks like something. Here is the truth about that whole thing, folks. I'm not saying it's not a frivolous lawsuit. It is, I guess, meaningful. You know, the people that got their wages garnished during this crisis, certainly it matters to them. But here's the fact of that matter, folks. The National Consumer Law Center is probably the leading national student loan advocacy group in this country. We have seen them in operation for years and years and years and years and years. And this is what they do to keep their names in the headlines. About every 6 months, they'll file a lawsuit like this. They pick out one of dozens, if not several dozens, of blatant injustices that happen across the country to student loan borrowers every day. And they file a lawsuit, and it gets front page news in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and the Washington Post and Yahoo News and all of these places, and everybody goes, wow, look at this lawsuit. These guys are fighting for us. But here's the truth, folks. They file these little nickel and dime, and I'm sorry if you're getting garnished, because I know it matters to you, but in the grand scheme of things, these are inconsequential lawsuits that they file. We have asked, begged, pleaded, demanded, asked nicely, asked angrily, all of these groups, NCLC and many others, and I won't rattle off the list of names, it's too many to mention, to file a real lawsuit, like, for example, a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the entire student loan program. You know, the Founding Fathers demanded uniform bankruptcy laws ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise a freaking army in the Constitution. And the body of the Constitution, by the way, not the Bill of Rights. And in the Bill of Rights, they called for equal protection under the law. Unlike every other type of loan in this country, student loans are uniquely stripped of the same uniform bankruptcy rights that everybody else has. So that's a double violation. It's a double violation of the bankruptcy line in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. And it's a blatant violation of our right to be protected the same way as everybody else is under the law. And NCLC and all those people know this. They are Harvard lawyers. They've known this for years. But will they file a lawsuit making that challenge? No, they won't. They don't. And after watching them for 15 years, they can't claim ignorance. They can't claim like, oh, wow, yeah, I never thought about that, huh? No. They know full well the deal. And they choose not to file a meaningful lawsuit that they could easily win. So what's that telling you? They're far more interested in something else than getting actual student justice for the student loan system. They're interested in something else other than solving this problem. Now, if I had to guess, well, look at where they come from. Harvard University, other top 8 universities in the country. I would say they're probably more interested in doing social engineering than anything. And I will say this as well. I know I'm picking on NCLC, but I could maybe mention others. 13 years ago, I will mention others. People from NCLC, from TICAS, the Institute for College Access and Success, the PIRGs, the Public Interest Research Group, they had one person, Christine Lindstrom, call me. In 2007, I was in Nyack, New York, and they made it abundantly clear that they really wanted me to stop fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. They said, Alan, you're going to do what you're going to do, but, you really just don't. Just stop. Because, listen, we've got these really great other programs that we're pushing through instead. We've got this thing called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And it's going to forgive everybody's loans if they work for 10 years in a nonprofit. We've got this thing called income-based repayment, where you pay a small amount of your income for 25 years, And at the end of the term, your loans go away. These are way better than bankruptcy protections. And believe us, because we went to Harvard. And we have PhDs. Yeah. So, dudes, don't get distracted by the little nickel and dime little lawsuits you see come and go and come and go. Come and go again. We've been watching those things go over, down, up and down the river and down the creek and out of sight for 15 years now. And the problem has only gotten worse. And it is the very people that claim to be fighting for us that actually have their boots on our head. People like Christine Lindstrom. People like Deanne Lunin. People like Lauren Asher. And I could go on for quite a while here. And we have enemies, believe me. There are people that are squarely dead set against us, and they blatantly and unabashedly and in the open do everything they can to make these loans even more and more vicious. So we've got enough enemies as it is. We don't need the good guys to be pretending to be fighting for us when in fact the opposite is true. So, and we've been doing this for so long, I don't even really want to repost the articles that I see about these lawsuits. I just don't. Because I know where that story ends. It ends with nothing. Nothing. It ends with the perpetuation of this predatory lending system. And I, for one, have had enough. And I hope that you agree and that you are of a similar predisposition. I've had enough. Have you not had enough? Is it not time to throw this lending system off of our backs for good? I think it is. So, yeah. So if you see a little lawsuit by these little Beltway, swampy Washington, D.C. think tanks, and you think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, well, no, it's not. It's not. It's just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. The ship needs to sink. So don't get mad at me or offended if you send me a link to something like that and I don't repost it, because, dudes, we've got far bigger fish to fry. We've got a petition to grow. And so I'm gonna end it there tonight on that note and just urge you all. I know every day for the past 6 weeks I've been like, dudes, do this, do that, and the other thing for the petition. Tweet it, boost it, paste the link to it here. And I know that it's getting repetitive, and I know I'm asking twice. But it's going to, because we are the pioneers, folks. Remember, we are the pioneers, like it or not. We have to punch way above our weight. We've got to carry way more of our weight if we want to get this problem solved. Fortunately or unfortunately, that is the reality. So now, and I'm not a control guy. I'm like, oh, I want to crack my whip and I want to see those people jump when I do it. No. That's not it. I want to solve this problem. And I assume that you do too. And so whether you do what I ask you to do, I don't know. I mean, whatever. But the point is that you can't like say, oh yeah, and then tweet the petition like one time and then be like, cool, I pulled my weight, did everything I could do. No. That's not it, guys. You need to keep doing it. You need to spend some serious time on it. And take a look at how quickly the signatures are growing on the petition for yourself. We've had 2 great little swells of attention. But the thing that's really going to get this petition to 1 million signatures is our consistent, persistent diligence. So don't paste the thing one time and go, well, I did what I was asked to do and I'm not going to do any more. Because that's just stupid. That's what the bad guys want you to do. They want you to do nothing. They want you to think that lifting the slightest finger to solve this problem is like just more energy than you can really do. But, Okay, I'll feel guilty if I don't. So, okay, tweet it. Okay, tweet. Yeah. All right, I'm done. I did my part. That's not going to get this problem solved. It just is not. What's going to get this problem solved is when 10,000 people spend 10,000 hours, let's say 1 hour apiece, be like, you know what? I'm going to tweet this fucking link to 50 different people until Twitter suspends my account. I'm going to paste this link on Facebook in at least as many big groups where people with student loans might be, until I can't post anymore. I'm going to really knock this thing out of the ballpark. That sort of inspired effort is going to be what makes these loans disappear. Is that too much to ask? You know, I'm really not even asking you. I'm just saying, if you don't do that, then pretty much nobody else will either. It's just the way it goes. So if you can tweet it once, you can tweet it 50 times. Everybody here is smart. Everybody here is clever and creative. Everybody can think of a really nice, smart thing to say to, I don't know, Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift on Twitter. I don't know why I'm focusing on Twitter. It's so bad. But, you know, anybody can send a thing about this petition to someone in the media that they think should be particularly interested in this. And we've already been featured on Fox News, by the way, to our credit. Fox News Radio, but whatever. So we're on the way. But as long as you do nothing, then nothing will happen. And as long as you do the bare minimum, then nothing's going to happen. You got to get inspired. Your loans are on the line here. And, you know, you can't hide behind a crowd. You can't expect that somebody else is going to pull your weight for you, because they won't. They just won't do it. So find some inspiration in what I said and spend 2 hours a week, spend 15 minutes a day or something, half an hour a day, 5 hours, whatever that is. And just get the link to this petition out there on the internet everywhere you can possibly think of. Send it to as many reporters as you can and news organizations as you can possibly think of. Send it to President Trump. Send it to President Trump's inner circle. Send it to Ivanka and Jared and whoever else you think might have a direct line to the president. Send it everywhere. I mean, when we can get 1 million signatures on this petition, folks, the national news will have to report on it. They'll just have to. If we get 5 million signatures on this thing, we will be at least for a while, we will be a top of the news major headline issue, and people will be clamoring to learn more. And make no mistake, folks, we are ready to defend this argument in the most vile and sinister of opposing argumentative circumstances. We're ready to go toe-to-toe with anyone who thinks that this shouldn't happen. And we will make them look stupid. If they are a conservative, if it's Rush Limbaugh, we will dominate Rush Limbaugh on this topic in a fair debate. We will dominate anybody, because the most conservative guy should be the most ashamed of not supporting this. And, you know, our argument is nuclear strong. Nuclear strong. What's stronger than nuclear? That's how strong we are. But we won't win this argument until we flex the muscle. And our muscle won't get flexed until everybody out there is doing everything they possibly freaking can to get this son of a gun out everywhere so everybody who needs to know about it knows about it. Every media organization, everybody in the country. That's when we win. So let it start with you. Let this be the beginning. And have some confidence, folks, because this is going to happen. I can feel it in my bones. It'll happen quicker when you work harder. And so, what more can I say? But in the words of Benjamin Franklin, we can hang together and win this battle, and we will, if we hang together. Or else, we may very well hang separately. So let's not let that second thing happen. Let's make that first thing happen. Let's get these loans out of our lives, off our backs, and in the rear view mirror so that we can go forward with our lives. God bless and have a great night, folks.